How's it going, everybody? So I've got the Vennominaga deck here. I've updated it since the last time you guys saw it, just for the fact that I wasn't happy with the original build. So I went ahead and I did quite a few updates actually to the deck, but the biggest update came to the deck after the Gold series was released, because in it there was a new card that just basically opened up a lot of options for me for the deck. I'm going to go ahead and do this video a little bit, differently, because in order to explain how the deck really works, I'm sure that most people know how the deck works, especially if they're looking for this video actively, but I'm just going to go ahead and go first through the trap lineup, and then I'm going to go ahead and go through the monster and the spell lineup. So, first things first for the deck. The cards that you definitely need to consider for this, and just so you know guys, I am going to be proxying a couple cards because of the fact that I haven't gotten them yet. Some of them are being mailed and some of them I'm just hunting for throughout my area and my locals and everything. But I'll let you guys know what cards I might be missing, if anything, okay? So first things first. To Call the Haunted, because you need to go ahead and have a way to revive a certain monster out of your graveyard. I'll show you guys later. And Limit Reverse, because this also revives that same monster and it just kind of fulfills the condition a little bit more fast. The reason I have To Call the Haunted though is because I can use this to bring back other monsters in the deck, as well as bringing out Synchros and some XYZs that I have in here. But yeah, these are some of the cards that I have here for now. Cards that are integral to the deck's combo pieces are Offering to the Snake Deity and Rise of the Snake Deity. So the way that these work is that Offering to the Snake Deity, you target one reptile type monster you control and two cards your opponent controls. Destroy all 3 targets. So that's the effect here. Rise of the Snake Deity. When a face-up Vennominon, the king of poisonous snakes you control, is destroyed except by battle, special summon one Vennominaga, the deity of poisonous snakes, from your hand or deck. So basically the combo right here is that this is Vennominon, and you destroy him along with 2 cards your opponent controls, and then you activate in response Rise of the Snake Deity to special summon out your deck's biggest boss monster. So that's a combo. Plus this is just good for any reptile type monster, so you can go ahead and use this at any time you need to destroy cards your opponent controls. But that's one of the pieces right there that align themselves. Now, as far as just other things go, here's just some staples: Mirror Forces and Torrential Tributes, because again, Torrential Tribute, I run it in this deck because it fulfills the condition that you can use it to destroy Vennominon if he's summoned to the board, and just destroy your opponent's board as well, clear the way for your Vennominaga. That's a really good combo right there. And then just Mirror Force, because I need to protect my monsters until I can set up. But this is the card that changed a lot of things, that made me revisit this build of the deck that I have it. This came out in the Gold series. It's called Ghost of a Grudge. What this does is that if your opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, the attack of all monsters your opponent controls currently becomes 0. So basically, this is kind of better for mid to late game. But what it does is that it makes everything your opponent controls have 0 attack, and it's a permanent attack modification because it doesn't last until the end phase. So they stay at 0 as long as they're on face up on the field. So this is actually a really, really good card, and this is why I decided to go ahead and show the deck off first, because I figured that I'd use this to premise explaining the new choices for the deck that I made, because I decided to revisit an old archetype now that this card came out. So first things first for the monster lineup. Vennominaga. She is your win condition. If you can get Vennominaga on board with a decent amount of reptiles in your graveyard, you've pretty much got the game in the bag. And her effect is that she cannot be normal summoned or set. She can only be special summoned either through her effect or with Rise of the Snake Deity, the card I showed you guys earlier over here. And her effects are that she gains 500 attack for every reptile type monster in your graveyard. So this is better later game, because then you'll probably have more reptiles in your graveyard to make her even bigger attack. This is where she gets really good though. She is unaffected and cannot be targeted by any other card effects. Monster, spell, and trap, nothing affects her. And pretty much just gives her immunity from all other card effects. The second thing though is that if she is somehow destroyed, like by battle is the only way pretty much, then you can go ahead and special summon her back to the field by just removing from play one other reptile type monster in your graveyard. So she pretty much can just be a recurring monster on the field. And she has her own alternative win condition. When she inflicts battle damage, she places a Hyper Venom counter on herself and basically when she has 3 of them, you win the duel. So basically when you inflict damage to your opponent 3 times with her, you win the game automatically. So that coupled with the fact that she can get really big and has immunity from all other card effects just makes her a really, really powerful card. So those are just some of the things that I wanted to go ahead and just explain. This is why she's a win condition and in herself. Vennominon. This is the card that you're supposed to go ahead and basically sacrifice in order to be able to summon her. So Vennominon is similar to Vennominaga. He does gain 500 attack for every reptile you have in your graveyard. He can bring himself back to the field if he is destroyed by battle, but he doesn't share the status immunity as well as the alternative win condition that Vennominaga has. So he's really just kind of like a big beater more than anything, but you really want to set up the board when you can actually just go ahead and sacrifice him to summon Vennominaga out. You rarely want to use this guy actually to interact with your opponent, because if they mess up with anything, like they compulse it, they deprison it, or they just send it back to your deck, you're really, really screwed, because then it pretty much just messes up the entire combo. I only play 1 because I don't want to like be drawing into this card, and I know that there's the trade-in builds and the Snake Rain builds, but Snake Rain would imply that you have to run a crap ton of reptile type monsters in your deck, which in this current state of the game where there isn't a lot of reptile support, that's not really a viable option. And trade-in is just, I like the draw power concept of it, but it's 3 cards, and that means you have to run more level 8s, which means that you have less monsters that you're going to be able to immediately summon to the field at the same time. So I prefer to just be able to go ahead and start summoning immediately and just have the one that's necessary. But yeah, so this is the archetype that you guys will recognize that benefits off having monsters with 0 attacks. Reptilliane Vaskii. Her effect is that this card cannot be normal summoned or set, but you can special summon her by tributing 2 monsters with 0 attack from anywhere on the field. So you can tribute your opponent's monsters that would have Ghost of a Grudge, nullifying their attack statuses and all that, in order to summon her out. Again, it all revolves back to this card right here. And then her effect is that she can just destroy a monster with a face-up monster your opponent controls each turn. So Vaskii's really good in that sense. Next up, I have Reptilliane Scylla. She's 1800 attack. If this card destroys an opponent's monster with 0 attack by battle, you can special summon that monster from their graveyard and face-up defense position. Its effects are negated. So basically, she's a Goyo Guardian if she destroys a monster by battle that had 0 attack. Ghost of a Grudge again. Really, really broken cards. Next card here, Reptilliane Gardna. This guy has the ability that when this card you control is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, mandatory search your deck for 1 reptilian monster and basically add it to your hand. So pretty much anytime this guy gets destroyed, you can just go ahead and search out your combo pieces, which is really, really good for this deck. And he's 2000 defense, so it's just really, really handy to keep him even as a wall sometimes. This guy right here can be a little bit sneaky. When this card is normal summoned, Reptilliane Viper, by the way. When this card is normal summoned, you can select and take control of 1 face-up monster with 0 attack your opponent controls. So combo this with Ghost of a Grudge, basically you can steal one of your opponent's monsters. And he's a tuner, so you can go ahead and use that monster for a synchro summon of something. Normally you're going to go for 6s because you're assuming they have level 4s, or 10s because usually a lot of decks go into level 8s and things like that. So that's just kind of like some of the cards that I have, and that's kind of how I outfitted my synchro lineup in my extra deck, but I'll show you guys that in a moment. And then the other card in the deck, the best stall card in the deck, Reptilliane Naga. She cannot be destroyed by battle. The attack of any monster that battles her becomes 0 at the end of that battle phase. And during your end phase, change this face-up defense position card on the field to face-up attack position. So she does have that little downside that she has to switch to attack mode at the end of your turn, but she pretty much forces your opponent to not attack unless they have game, because then they're going to be losing all of their monsters' attack points pretty much. And as far as XYZ monsters go, I usually just set her in response, so that way they don't... that way I can at least go ahead and force them to play an Xyz monster and all that, but she's really, really good. She's one of the best cards in my deck, and my opponents are constantly trying to remove her off the field so that they can even get at my life points and things. And then for more rank 4 support and reptiles, I've got 2 Kagetokages. Just go ahead and play this guy whenever I normal summon a level 4 monster. And then for another really good stall card in my deck is 3 Gentlemander. So what this guy does is that when your opponent's monster declares an attack, any attack, direct or against another monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Your opponent cannot attack any other monsters except for this card. So basically, basically forces your opponent to go ahead and redirect their attack at him, saving your bigger monsters. Or what I personally love to do is play 2 of these guys at the same time, and then you basically establish a lockdown. Because the way the text is worded, if both of them are on the field and they both say your opponent cannot attack other monsters except this one, that inherently locks your opponent down from being able to make any other attacks at that point. So you've got that benefit right there. And it's just really, really good. This combo is very, very handy, at least saving yourself. And that's pretty much it for the monster lineup. It's a total of 19 monsters, I think, if I didn't miscount. Maybe 18, 19, something like that. But yeah, that's how I have the deck worked out, and you guys can see how the Ghost of a Grudge and the traps just combo off each other. Then spells is just more support. Dark Hole, because Dark Hole, and it just fulfills the Vennominon sacrificing requirements. Burial from the different dimension, because this way, if you are assuming to be removing cards from your graveyard from play, this will put them back into your graveyard. Plus, if they do happen to banish your Vennominon, that would probably be the hardest one to be able to go ahead and recover from, because it's banished. So this card is actually really handy in that sense. Foolish Burial, mainly sending Vennominon to the graveyard. If you already have Vennominon in your hand or something like that, I've had instances where that happens to me. The next best targets are usually between sending a Reptilliane Gardna, Reptilliane Naga, and probably just a Reptilliane Vaskii or something like that. Because this pretty much just is another card that you just want to go ahead and use to set up your graveyard. For consistency and speed issues, Pot of Duality. I play it at 2 for this deck because this deck really does have some major consistency issues, and you just need to be able to get to your cards as quickly as possible. And then Forbidden Lance, because just more protection for your stuff, along with double MST. So just basically back row protection and back row removal cards right there. They're pretty self-explanatory. But that is pretty much how the deck is at least organized right here. And I'll go ahead and I'll go straight into the extra deck. Now, I'm going to go ahead and premise the extra deck by saying that, like I said, there's a lot of cards that I'm missing right now, so I know that there's quite a few things that I need to go ahead and get done for that, but like I said, a lot of that's right now being ordered, and I'm continuously hunting down for some of the cards in there so that I can go ahead and get them from my shop owners and things like that, but I'll show you guys what I have right now as well as what I'm trying to get. So, extra deck. This is what I have currently. It's not a whole lot, but I'll just show right now. So basic rank 4 material monsters. Gaga Cowboy for that 3000 beater power, as well as for burning your opponent for 800 life points. Maestro for basically just protection and stalling Maestro. I always play him in my extra decks. He's my favorite XYZ monster. Pappy Operative, just so that you can go ahead and be able to turn things into face-up attack mode and things like that, just beat down. Silent Honor's Arc, because it's a good card. And I'm probably going to put 2 of this into the extra deck because it's that good of a card. King of the Feral Imps, because King of the Feral Imps just searches out everything in your deck. I want to get 2 of this guy also for sure. So 2 of him and 2 of Arc. And then for other XYZ monsters that I'm missing right now, I'll go ahead and I'll show you guys. One that I'm definitely missing right now that I need in the extra deck is this guy, Evil Swarm Exciton Knight. I'm right now waiting for him to come in through order, so once that does happen, then I'll probably just go ahead and buy him when the time comes, because he's a really powerful card. And then obviously other cards that I would want in the extra deck. This is actually probably more priority than Exciton Knight, Lavalval Chain, because he sends monsters to the graveyards and he stacks a monster on the top of your deck. So he just basically sets you up and filters through your deck even more quickly. So these 2 guys I definitely want to have in the extra deck. And then as far as synchros go, another one, like I said, that I'm missing right now is just going to be, this is probably the most important synchro that's missing, Reptilianne Hydra. It requires a Reptilian tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner monsters. But the effect is that when this card is synchro summoned, destroy all face-up monsters with 0 attack that your opponent controls, and draw 1 card for each monster destroyed this way. So basically, you just combo this card with Ghost of a Grudge once you've gone ahead and made everything 0, destroy their entire board, and then just basically draw that many cards from your deck. So it's a really, really good card, and I like it a lot. Right now I'm waiting for 2 of these also to come in. This is kind of just a priority right now. I'm kind of looking around for this card more than anything, but yeah, just looking. And to finish off the extra deck, I've got 1 Celestial Wolf Lord Blue Sirius, because his effect is that when he is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, I target one monster my opponent controls and makes it lose 2400 attack. So basically, in the right combination, I can make a monster become 0 attack through this effect. And then because I want to go ahead and have that level 2 and 8 plays, I have Leo, the Keeper of the Sacred Tree. And this guy is just a boss monster, can't be targeted by anything except during your main phase 2, and 3100 attack is definitely very, very nice. So that's pretty much the extra deck. It's 13 cards when you also take into account the other cards I'm trying to get. But right now, I pretty much would say that for the extra deck, you can pretty much have anything else in the deck. The only cards that you have to have in here for sure are just King of the Feral Imps, the Reptilianne Hydra, the Lavalval Chain, and I'd probably go ahead and even make a further argument for just adding at least one Honors Arc, because Honors Arc is an insanely powerful card and you just need to go ahead and control your opponent as much as possible. But yeah, that would be what I would say for the deck. So a couple of things that really kill this deck, and just so that you guys can understand this, because Vennominaga decks are not easy to make, like at all. So decks that problems that this deck runs into very, very often, there's 3 main things that shut down this deck hard, and it's not that hard to achieve them. First thing that shuts down this deck is anything that just shuts down your special summons. So things like Fossil Diner right here, or things like Vanity's Emptiness, they just ruin the deck. Archlord Christia ruins this deck, Vanity's Fiend and Emptiness ruin this deck. Just anything that shuts down your special summons, because you kind of need those. If you don't have those, then you're going to be a little bit screwed. A second thing that really, really ruins this deck is also just kind of like, well, basically just anything that takes away access from your graveyard. So things like Dimensional Fissure, Macrocosmos, Soul Drain, Necro Valley, things like that. Anything that just prevents you from being able to touch your graveyard is really, really going to harm your deck. So I've kind of decided to revisit this because of the fact that these 2 cards got, well, all 3 of these actually got limited to 1. But yeah, these 2 cards just basically is also another way. So just shutting down special summons, shutting down your graveyard. And then the last thing that can ruin your deck is pretty much just anything that specifically can like just harm you in a way that really, really affects you badly. The best example of this, Zombie World. Zombie World is just evil against a Vennominaga deck, because this changes the type of monster and everything, the field and the graveyard, to zombie type. And with this, even Vennominaga, who is super big and super buff, she loses all of her power if this is on the field, because then she has no reptile type monsters to support her. So things like this just ruin you really, really, really badly. End of Anubis is another good card that I have to deal with. And just, yeah, things like that just ruin this deck really, really hard. But other than that, I pretty much don't have much left to say about the deck, because that's pretty much all that there is to the deck itself. I guess if anything else, I'll probably just go ahead and say that, like I said, there's always new builds that I'm trying to make for this deck. And as a result, I'm always just kind of working on finding out what's best for the deck and what can really, really improve it, what I can really do to improve it and everything. If you guys have any good suggestions, or at least kind of see where I'm going with this deck now that Ghost of a Grudge is out and it's just a very, very viable card for me to go ahead and use here, let me know in the comment sections if you guys have any suggestions for the deck. And okay, it is 18 monsters. And otherwise, I really don't have a whole lot left to say on the matter. I am going to be releasing a couple more videos soon. I've been really busy with school and things like that, so I just haven't had a whole lot of time and some stuff going on at home right now. But otherwise, I'll just go ahead and I'll leave the deck out here so you guys can all go ahead and see it. And that's really all I have left to say on the matter. So thank you everybody for watching. This has been Jaku D, and I'll catch you guys later.